Hi everyone. So this is the follow-up video showing you how I do the edit on my images that have been light painted. So the scene we're going to look at is, or the image we're going to look at is the coffee shop with the grinder and the beans. And this is how I've gone about doing it. So we're in this program at the moment is Adobe Bridge, and this is just to view raw files. I think it's a really good program to use. When you double click on an image, it opens Photoshop straight up, which is great. So what I'm going to do now is edit this with the raw editor so that I can apply it to um, all of the other images that I open. So I do an exposure. So I'm looking at the exposure here, contrast, and I move these just slightly to see how it's affecting the image. My highlights I'm going to pull down so I can see more details in the highlights. Shadows probably push up a little bit. Whites will go up and blacks will come down. And when I do that, I adjust my exposure as well. It's kind of like I balance them too. For temperature on the colour, I am going to move this in because it's quite cool and I want this to be quite warm looking. Move it, that's probably a bit too much, maybe about there. That looks okay for me. And then if I want to drop my saturation down, I can do. Don't play around with these, but might play around with the vibrance, and that is it pretty much. What I'll now do is, if I'm happy with that, which I am, I'll click on here and I'll save my settings. So I'll save settings, save all of that, and I will save it where my folder is. So on my desktop, I've got the folder which is light, and I'll make a new folder and call it settings, create, and I'll save it in there, and that will be saved so that I can go back when I open the other files up and I don't have to do this ever again. I've done it all in one. And I like to do it individually so I can change. If I need to change something, then I can slightly adjust it rather than doing them all together. So looking at this now, then I start to think, right, what else do I need to add to this image? So I've got some images where I've got light on this side and light on here, and I've lit this area. So I will go back into Bridge and find them images. So I just move this up so we can see it a bit better. So I'll go to the top and have a look at what we've got. We've got the light there. The light on the top there is good, and the light on these beans are good here. Just looking through all of these images that are here. So I'm going to open this image up here and let's see how this is. So this is going to be the back edge of the thing. So all I need to do now is load them settings, find where they are. So it's in desktop, light, settings, load that. And that's going to bring that out. I'm going to bring the exposure up on this a little bit higher. Have that and open. Now I'm going to copy this. So how I do this is I right click on the layer, duplicate the layer, and when you press that, it allows you to put the layer where you want. Now I'm going to place this layer in here. So this is 9.7, this is 9.3. So I change this to 9.7, press OK, and this layer now is on this one, like that. And then what I'm going to do now is make a mask here, which is this. We've got the mask. If I press Command I and I think it's Control I on a PC, it will invert it back to the original, the lower mask. So basically we've got this layer, which I call the base layer, and we've got this next layer not showing us anything. So if I just make that go back by Control I again, that's what we get. That's what we get. So we're going to bring all of them details in and keep all of these. So we keep it there. We've got it on black. We want this to be on black, and we're on the pen tool. You want to make sure you've got a feathered brush, so you've not got a hard edge brush. And then the other thing that I have open is Navigator. So I like to use the Navigator window. If you cannot see it, if you go to Windows and you click Navigator, tick it, you will then see it in here, or you can have it floating around. What that allows you to do is go right in close and move your box exactly where you want to work. If I want to work on this area here, just come back, and then we're going to paint this in. So I use my brackets to make my pen go bigger and smaller. So they're the bracket keys that are near return, and then we draw this back in, all the detail. All the detail on this side is now being brought back in, just like that. Just painting it all in like that. See, all that edge there is really coming out quite well. And also the detail on here is coming up well as well. You have to be quite careful as you're coming round, because there has to be an area, you don't want to go over this side, but we do want to get all of the detail in here and in here as well, so it's shining on these bits, so you can see that a bit better, and also on this as well. There's a bit more light coming in there as well. Look at that. We're slowly getting the details in them areas. Okay, and now I know for a fact in one of these images, if I am right, go back to bridge, was where I highlighted the actual handle. So here, so on this image, you've got this going over. I have to remember what I've done now, but this image is really nice for the light on the top. So I'm going to use these areas and this for this next one. So I'm going to load the settings in again, choose this is already remembered what we want. If you want to bring up the light again, you can change. If you want to make it more, bring out what you're after, you can bring that out a bit more like that, and press open. And then we're going to duplicate the layer. So I've duplicated that layer again onto here, and I speak through that again. So I'm right clicking on the layer, going to duplicate layer, copying the layer onto our 9.7, which is our base layer. Now this layer is going to have 3 layers on now. We've got this one, which is, you can't see it at the moment, but it was doing this side of the grinder. So we're going to make a mask by clicking on the mask there. Command I to invert the mask so we can see the bottom. And now we're going to bring in this handle. So we're going to zoom in. We're on black, we're on a white pen, on the pen tool, and we're going to draw in so we can see more of this grinder. This grinder is going to come to life a bit differently now. Now we're starting to see this area here. I've not gone on the back here because we want to see that light on that side. So on purpose, I'm here. I'm going to bring that right to There we go. Bringing all of this out like that. So I'm actually going to change that, so I don't like that. I'm bringing it back. So if I make a mess, I'm just changing. I'm going to actually flip down to this side and bring this in more, because I feel like we're at 20%. Oh, wrong way. I feel like we're at the wrong, that's more like it. We're only at, the brush was at 20%, so you need your opacity of your brush to be at 100. So just really bringing all this in. I reckon there's light on here as well, but I'm not gonna light the table just yet. I'm just gonna darken this table down for the moment, and we'll come back to that. That's looking really good. On this side, we're just pressing it the right way. So now it's bringing all the detail in there. A little bit more light on here. It's almost like we've got a shadow going in here. We've got the light from this side coming in, and the light from the other side coming in as well. Let's have a look at the whole thing. So see how that's really shining out now. So so that's all looking good. Let's have a look at what we've got next. You can see how I'm building this up, using it's because I remembered how I lit it and what I was doing. You're able to make these little adjustments, so you can see the build up. That was the first image. There's one side. There's the handle, which is completely transformed. It was a bit dull. Now it's looking great. That side's bringing that backlight in. Now we're going to look at, I'm sure I've got one of the beans, so we're going to go to see if we've got an image of the beans that's better. So we were here, which does look good when we go into the beans. I'm just seeing if we've got a better one, which I don't think we have. No. No, sorry, I'm just looking through all of the images and seeing what we want. Looking at how we've done them all. So I'm gonna just flick back to Photoshop and have a look at what we've got with the spoon. So I'm going to open this one up and then load our settings again. There's the settings in, and press OK. I'm actually going to raise that up, so all I'm looking at now is that spoon. Press open. So now I'm going to duplicate this layer and load it back onto there. We'll go to this layer again, make a mask, invert the mask by pressing Command I. So now we can't see, this is our original picture that we had. And then going to the spoon, I'm just going to see if we can bring out this spoon a bit better by having a different shine on the spoon, like that. The other thing we want to do is get rid of this. If we want to get rid of it, we can. So how I would go about that is, again, go back to Photoshop, go back to Bridge and look for one of the images that are here. The one where it's got no light there. So if I open that up, this has got this black area which has got no light in it at all. Load the settings again. Load settings. Open. And then we're going to duplicate this. Duplicate layer. So we go to this one here, which has got 5 layers on now. I'm going to do, the wrong one, let me just delete that. We're just going to do a mask again, and we're going to invert the mask, Command I, and that is going to wipe this out. So now we're going to have a black area. I mean, you could do it with a black pen tool, but quite good to use the original backgrounds that you might have, but that's now all gone, and we've got this background here that's looking like that. So the other thing I was going to speak about is this edge here. If we wanted to bring a pool of light coming in, we could bring our opacity down on here on the pen. So this is controlling the pen tool, how powerful it works. I'm actually going to go less than that, so I'm going to go to 20. This is on this layer here, which I know there's light on the floor here. So if I slowly click on here, because it's at 20, I can bring pools of light in on the board, so it kind of matches what's happening, like that. So you've got light coming in. If you wanted it to go down, you could just press X, which is changing the pen from white to black, and then you can tap on it again. You can even make this less. So if you wanted to make it 10%, not 1, sorry about that, make it 10%. Oh, why is it doing that? Try again. 10. That's it. And then when you click on here, it's going to darken it down. So you could actually darken this down slightly, subtly, to make it come in. And that is pretty much it with the layers, with making all of these layers and building these kind of all of the bits you did when you took your images and you load them back onto each other. This only works if you're using a tripod like we were, and your camera has to be really still, and also remembering exactly the directions you are lighting your image. So I'm now going to go over to Bridge again, and I'm going to show you the edit that I did, and I'll go walk you through everything I did on my image, because there's some images here that are not in there. So if I go into this image here and I open it up, which is exactly the same, but there's elements to this that are different, and I'll explain them all now. So here are all my different layers that I've just gone through, and I'll turn everything off and walk you through everything that I've done, so you can kind of follow along. Well, you can just get an understanding of how I've worked. So this was the original image. I went off the base image, the very bottom one, and it's what I built everything on. So doing exactly that same format where I'm duplicating a layer and then dropping it on. So this layer here was the handle. So you see how I've changed the handle there. That's all that's been dealing with that. This layer was dealing with them beans. So what I liked about this layer was the fact that it highlighted this a bit better, and the beans were lit, and this edge here, you had this edge light highlighting, so I liked that, so I brought that in. The next layer was that side which we were working on before. So if I click that on and off, you see I've used it on this edge, I've used it there, and I've used it all the way down, and also on the table. So you can see the table at the back there, but I've also used it to light part of the back of the table as well. This was on the front, so felt like this was quite dark, so the mask here was lighting the front up to give it a little bit more light. So all the time my light is in the air at that angle for all of these shots, and the back one was at the back like I shown you on the workshop. Then the next one was the background. So some of you, I was doing the background, and some of you were having the light coming in from the back. So you can see how on this mask, basically you can see the cutout of this, and I've basically gone round the whole of the image like this with the mask, to bring this background in. This layer here was for the spoon, so I didn't like the spoon being so dark, and then I've dropped the spoon in like that. Just zoom out a little bit so you can see all of the components and how I've kind of put it all together now. This spots is I go around when all the components are together, I go into the image and I fix up. So if you look at the image, these bits all over, like this, and the spots are just getting rid of all of them dots. There's a thumbprint there, and I got rid of that. And how I use spots is I use the spot healing tool, which is there, and I just go around cleaning up stuff. So say I didn't want this bit in the thing, I just draw on it and it makes it disappear. That's how I do. I don't want that bit. I click on there and it makes it disappear. See if there's anything else on here. So say that there, if I didn't want it, if I click on that now, I'm on here, the spot healing tool. If I click on there, it just gets rid of it. I actually do like that, so I'm just going to undo that. But that's what it does. So you get rid of, if I click off, you can see what I got rid of. All the marks that are on this, I take away. Then I change it to black and white. And the reason I change it to black and white is so I can do the dodge and burn. And how I do the dodge and burn is, basically these are the highlights, dodge. And what I do is I just make a new layer. Make a new layer like that. Change the name, and then change this here to soft light. I change my brush, go into the brush tool. I change the opacity of the brush to 7, like that. And then I change my brush to white. So I want it to be white. Because this is on 7, it's very light. And then basically I go around the image and draw in the areas that are white. So if I was drawing along there, I draw in here, I draw on there, draw on the edges of here, on the beans, on that area. So if I just click this off and on, it's very, very subtle, but it does work. So this is where the dodge would be. So you click on and off my dodge that I did, you can see I've just highlighted all the sections in white. So it's all in white, and then the opposite would be the burn, which is all the darks. So it's very subtle, but it just makes things stand out a little bit more. I actually really enjoy doing it, going around your image and just drawing just really lightly over the top. And the burn, exactly the same as what we did with this layer, soft light, 7%, but you obviously switch it to black and then draw in the dark areas, all the dark areas in black, so you get nice. So I go over that shadow, see that shadow of this, that's a really good area to make it more pronounced and stand out. The other issue that I had was, if we take the colour off, the black and white, so when I do the black and white, I just press this and click on black and white there. So you choose black and white and it'll make a layer like that. I don't do anything to that layer, I just want it to be black and white so that I can do my dodging and burning. I prefer to do it in black and white than to do it in colour. But then when I alter the colours, I just click the eye off so it's back in colour. I'm going to delete this one because that was just to show you. And then you can see the dodge and burn I've done there. You can see it working. The next one was a vignette. So I didn't like this area here, which was quite bright, and I wanted that effect in this corner. So with the vignette, generally what I do is I have the black and I change my opacity to about 10 or 15, and then I just dab on the edges. I make my brush, normally do this, shrink the image down, and I make the brush quite big. Again, I'm using the brackets to do this on, the bracketing that you get on the keyboard, and I just click in the areas. So I click on there and it darkens it down a bit like that. See how it's darkening down? I click on there, you can see me darkening that down. I'm going to undo them because I didn't want to do that, so just undoing what I've done a bit. So that's how I darken the edges and darken that background up. Another thing I like to use is the colour lookups. So the colour lookup, I'll explain how they work. So a colour lookup is like a LUTs, we call them LUTs, but I use these. So you go into that area there and you go colour lookup. And then when it's on here, I do this every time. So there's where the colour lookup is, and I'm going to lift it up. I'm going to call this new. So this is the colour lookup here. I always change the opacity before I use it to 25. Therefore, it's not a massive effect. And then I just basically drop this draw down at the top. Cancel that. Drop the draw down so you're on these, and I just look at my image. Sorry, I'm just going to go to Navigator and zoom in a bit, and then go to this again, Properties. We're on this colour lookup, and I click through them and just see which of these I'm liking, which effect is having a good effect, and I think, oh, and I'll settle on one. I might change the opacity to see if it has a better effect, or I'll drop it back down, and I might do that, and I might use more than one effect. So if I click this off, this is the two effects that I've used. So this is one. So I've used that and it's made it a bit cooler. And if I look at what we've chose, see there, I've chose this foggy night. So I've got that foggy night chosen for one of mine. And then I've used another one, colour lookup 2. And I've used, if we click on here, I've used candlelight, which is that one there. I've actually used 2, and then you can see what my opacity, how much they're affecting the image. One's only 11% and the other one's only 25. So if I raise this one up, see, it's making it more of a chalky looking image, if you want to call it that. I change that back to 11, and you can see more of the colour coming through. And then the last thing I've done is done a levels adjustment. So doing a levels adjustment, you click on here and go to levels, and you click on the levels, you get this. If I do another levels adjustment, which is there, then you see the histogram, which again, I don't really go off that massively. Just pull this down so you can see where it's working. So I'll click this one off, delete that one, but this is the one that I edited, and you can see what I've done. So that was there, that's how it would have been, and I've raised this in. I brought this in, and that's raised my lighting. Change that as well if I want to, just have a little mess around and see. But it's an overall push of the edit that you've done. So everything, all of these layers that you've been playing around with, you do an overall adjustment where you can bring it up or make it darker or lighter. So that is it. That's how I've created, or that's how I go about doing light painting. I've shown you how I work in the studio in creating this. Really find it dead creative, and anyone can do it because all you need is a torch, and not a very powerful one. I think one of the keys to it is having a good concept and finding something interesting to photograph, and just finding a decent backdrop as well. But yeah, I hope that's give you the information to be able to create these yourself, and also I hope the images that you got from the workshop, you're able to put this into practice and build your images from what you've gained. So yeah, so thanks again for coming on the workshop, and I hope this has helped everyone. So hopefully I will see you all soon. But yeah, thanks again.